Hello folks, I'm Alex, this is Alex Unabridged, and today it's time to talk you through my plan for year 2 of my adventures into some science fiction. This is science fiction for the somewhat less hesitant. So welcome back to the channel if that is the case. Yes, more adventures into science fiction for me. I have absolutely loved doing my science fiction project in 2024, my science fiction for the somewhat hesitant project. It has been honestly one of the best things I've ever done. I've absolutely and utterly fallen in love with this genre. Both, some of the classics through to contemporary stuff. So I've got to keep going. And a huge thanks to my good buddy Troy Tradup once again, who kind of kicked this whole thing off back at the end of 2023 when I asked him, where should I start with science fiction? I'm a little scared of it. I'm a little hesitant with it. And he sent me an email, titled Science Fiction for the Somewhat Hesitant. And there were so many books on that email that obviously I've read quite a few of now, but there were so many on there that I couldn't fit them all into 1 year, and so it's time to continue on. So this is the lineup for 2025, 24 books for the year again. If anybody wants to buddy read any of these that I've got on my list, just give me a shout. I am very open to buddy reading these. So the first phase, which is the first 3 months of the year then, I've split into 2 themes. The first theme is called The End of the World as We Know It. So we've got some apocalyptic and post-apocalyptic science fiction. And then theme 2 is Space is Scary. A lot of you will know I'm a fan of horror as well as science fiction, and I want to explore some more crossovers of those 2 genres. The End of the World as We Know It books are all Troy's recommendations, and the Space is Scary books are all my own picks, by the way. So in January then, the first one that I'll be reading will be A Canticle for Leibowitz by Walter M. Miller Jr., a classic. The blurb for this, in case you don't know it, is: in a nightmarish, ruined world, slowly awakening to the light after sleeping in darkness, the infant rediscoveries of science are secretly nourished by cloistered monks dedicated to the study and preservation of the relics and writings of the blessed Saint Isaac Leibowitz. From here, the story spans centuries of ignorance, violence, and barbarism, viewing through a sharp, satirical eye the relentless progression of a human race damned by its inherent humanness to re-celebrate its grand foibles and repeat its grievous mistakes. Really, really looking forward to that one. And then for my bit of science fiction horror for January, I've got Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. I've seen a few folks talk about this over the last couple of years and really like the sound of it. This is described as Titanic meets The Shining. Sold. And this is a novel in which we meet a woman and her crew who board a decades-lost luxury cruiser in space and find the wreckage of a nightmare that hasn't yet ended. Intriguing. Okay, into February then, we've got Earth Abides by George R. Stewart. The blurb for this one, in case you don't know it, is: a disease of unparalleled destructive force has sprung up almost simultaneously in every corner of the globe, all but destroying the human race. One survivor, strangely immune to the effects of the epidemic, ventures forward to experience a world without man. What he ultimately discovers will prove far more astonishing than anything he's either dreaded or hoped for. And then my Space is Scary pick for February is Ship of Fools by Richard Paul Russo, also known as Unto Leviathan. This one's been on my radar for quite a while, ever since I started watching BookTube. I think it was Rachel over at Shades of Orange who recommended this, and I really like the sound of this, so this one has definitely gone in for the space horror. The blurb for this one then is: for hundreds of years, the Argonos, home to generations of humans, has trawled the galaxy searching for other signs of life. Now, a steady, unidentified transmission has lured the ship to a remote planet. On the surface, the crew find evidence of a colony, but no inhabitants, until they discover a trail deep into the planet's steamy jungles, and their terrifying fate is revealed to them. So I'm getting alien vibes from that. I don't know whether it's anything like it, but I'm getting alien vibes from that. Okay, then, and into March, we've got Darwinia by Robert Charles Wilson. And the blurb for this one is: in 1912, history was changed by the miracle, when the old world of Europe was replaced by Darwinia, a strange land of nightmarish jungle and antediluvian monsters. To some, the miracle was an act of divine retribution. To others, it is an opportunity to carve out a new empire. Leaving an America now ruled by religious fundamentalism, young Guilford Law travels to Darwinia on a mission of discovery that will take him further than he can possibly imagine, to a shattering revelation about mankind's destiny in the universe. And then the final space horror book that I've got is The Luminous Dead by Caitlin Starling. And this apparently has the intensive drive of The Martian and the creeping dread of annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. So if that's true, that bodes really well. I like both of those a lot. And this is about a caver on a foreign planet who finds herself on a terrifying psychological and emotional journey for her survival. So yeah, I really like the sound of that. And caving stuff, generally, that's another thing in horror that I am drawn to, kind of that kind of tight space, no escape type stuff. That could be potentially very, very creepy. Okay, then into phase 2, and it's time for a taste of the classics for a couple of months. And these were all Troy's suggestions. Okay, in April starts with The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. The blurb for this one, in case you don't know it, is this is the time traveller's astonishing first-hand account of his journey 800,000 years beyond his own era. Wells sends his brave explorer to face a future burdened with our greatest hopes and our darkest fears. A pull of the time machine's lever propels him to the age of a slowly dying Earth. There he discovers two bizarre races, the ethereal Eloi and the subterranean Morlocks, who not only symbolise the duality of human nature, but offer a terrifying portrait of the men of tomorrow as well. And then along with that in April, we've got 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. Bit of Captain Nemo and submarine exploration in the deep ocean with giant squid and various other things, I imagine. I remember really enjoying the film version of this that I saw as a kid, quite an old film now. Although it scared the hell out of me, the giant squid scared the hell out of me. But I have read a couple of Jules Verne books in the last few years and absolutely loved them. I'm really excited about that one. And Debs from Rainer Reed's stuff has already tapped me for a buddy read on that, which makes me even more excited because that would be fantastic to do a buddy read with Debs on this one. And into May then, I've got a couple of rereads actually, things that I haven't read in a long, long time. First one is Frankenstein. Couldn't have a science fiction list with classics on it and not have Frankenstein on it. This, though, is the 1818 text, as specified by Troy. I have read the other text. Is it the 1838, 39, something like that? 36? The one that sort of tends to be the predominant one. I read that probably 20 years ago. Very interested to read a slightly different version, and what Troy says is the better version, apparently. So that's the first one. And then the second one is The Island of Dr. Moreau, also by H.G. Wells. A long time since I've read this. Obviously, this is the tale of a survivor from a shipwreck who is rescued, taken to a strange island for his recovery, where he meets the sinister Dr. Moreau, was a scientist whose notorious experiments in vivisection have caused him to abandon the rest of the world. And he's been developing those experiments on this island with some horrific results. So yeah, I do remember enjoying this when I read it many years ago, but I don't remember sort of the intricacies of it. I don't remember the details of it particularly well. So it'd be very good to go back and reread that. I have read a couple of other H.G. Wells. I enjoy the ideas a lot in H.G. Wells, but I've not necessarily enjoyed his style a huge amount. Certainly not in the ones that I've read recently, which were War of the Worlds and The Invisible Man. But I still want to keep going with Wells for sure, because, as I say, the ideas are just fantastic. Then the rest of the year is split between two groups. The first group that I've come up with is The Wonderful Women of Science Fiction. Throughout the first year of this project, I have been very aware of the fact that there's been a lot of male authors. And there were, it was a male-dominated thing, I think, especially classic science fiction. And I want to explore more of the books written by female science fiction authors, both classic and contemporary, because there's a very different feel to the stuff that I've read so far by female authors, like Ursula K. Le Guin, Joanna Russ, Octavia E. Butler. And they're just talking about very different things in a different way, and I've really enjoyed sort of the ideas, as I say, and the way that they're expressing them. So I want to kind of get more into female authors in science fiction. And then the other group of books for the last 7 months of the year, I've called I Can't Believe I've Not Read This Yet. And these are full of, this group is full of heavy hitters, both in terms of titles and authors, that I really just need to read. I really need to read these as now a fan of science fiction. I really need to read these books. So in June then, we start off with Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. This is described as a novel of art, time travel, love and plague that takes the reader from Vancouver Island in 1912 to a dark colony on the moon 500 years later, unfurling a story of humanity across centuries and space. I've had this one in my Audible library for probably the best part of 2 years. So time to get to it. And then what else can I put in June but Dune by Frank Herbert, or Dune, however you want to pronounce it. I don't think I really need to go through the premise of this, do I? I think most people probably know the premise, whether it's because you've seen the movie or read the book already yourself. I'll be honest with this one. This is the one book on this whole list that I do not expect to enjoy. And I will be very surprised if I do like it. I'm open to it, absolutely. And I know it's one that I really should read as a science fiction fan. But yeah, it's not one that's ever drawn me at all. And so, I'm kind of sceptical about it, about whether I'll enjoy it or not. But I'm going to give it a damn good go. And hope that I will be surprised, that I'll surprise myself. Okay, into July then, and my wonderful woman of sci-fi for this month is Connie Willis with Doomsday Book. For anyone who doesn't know the premise of this one, this is the blurb. For Kivrin, preparing an on-site study of one of the deadliest eras in humans' history was as simple as receiving inoculations against the diseases of the 14th century and inventing an alibi for a woman travelling alone. For her instructors in the 21st century, it meant painstaking calculations and careful monitoring of the rendezvous location where Kivrin would be received. But a crisis, strangely linking past and future, strands Kivrin in a bygone age as her fellows try to desperately rescue her. In a time of superstition and fear, Kivrin, barely of age herself, finds she has become an unlikely angel of hope during one of history's darkest hours. I've had that on my wish list for a long time, Doomsday Book, so that one had to go in here. And then the heavy hitter for the month, the one that I really need to get read, is Hyperion by Dan Simmons. I'm so excited about getting to this one finally. And the blurb for this one is: on the world called Hyperion, beyond the law of the hegemony of man, there waits the creature called the Shrike. There are those who worship it, there are those who fear it, and there are those who have vowed to destroy it. In the valley of the time tombs, where huge brooding structures move backward through time, the Shrike waits for them all. On the eve of Armageddon, with the entire galaxy at war, 7 pilgrims set forth on a final voyage to Hyperion, seeking the answers to the unsolved riddles of their lives. Each carries a desperate hope and a terrible secret, and one may hold the fate of humanity in his hands. Everything I've heard about this book, the way that it's structured, the way that it's told, the themes in it, all that kind of stuff, really, really intrigues me. So yeah, really excited to get to that one. Then into August, I've gone for a couple which I think will probably be a little more trashy perhaps, because it's Garb August. And I want to try and fit my reading for this project in with that event. So for this, I've got All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This is first in the Murderbot books, which I know are very, very popular, and Murderbot sounds hilarious. Very kind of scornful, sentient security droid who just wants to be left alone to figure out, who it is. But then in this, when apparently a neighbouring mission goes dark, it's up to the Murderbot and its scientists to get to the truth of what's going on. I really like the sound of this, the humour in it, that kind of thing. So I'm going to give that one a go. And then the other one that I've got in terms of like the heavy hitters is the heavy hitter is the author really, which is Richard Matheson. And I've gone for The Shrinking Man, which I've got on my shelves, which I've had on my shelves for quite a while. And this one is about a guy who is exposed to a cloud of radioactive spray shortly after he accidentally ingests insecticide. That's a bad day, isn't it? And the radioactivity acts as a catalyst for the bug spray and causes his body to shrink. It's quite a slow rate, but still a noticeable rate over a period of time. And he continues to shrink and shrink and shrink, and all adventures ensue. Really looking forward to that one. And then September, which is also hopefully, fingers crossed, shorty September. I have gone for a book of short stories, a collection of short stories by James Tiptree Jr., whose real name was Alice Sheldon, actually writing under a male pseudonym. And the collection is called Her Smoke Rose Up Forever. And I love the sound of the stuff in this. It says short stories and novellas that touch on human nature and perception, metaphysics and epistemology, gender and sexuality. So there's plenty of stuff in there. It says foreshadowing a world in which biological tendencies bring about the downfall of humankind. So it should be some thought-provoking stuff, I imagine. It's got 18 stories in it, and several award-winning stories. So you've got a Nebula award-winning short story called Love is the Plan is Death. I love the title. Hugo award-winning novella The Girl Who Was Plugged In, and the Hugo and Nebula award-winning novella Houston, Houston, Do You Read? Which sounds really interesting. So yeah, really looking forward to diving into some short stories, and I should get a really good sense of Tiptree's voice through so much kind of short work. I really enjoy kind of exploring an author through sort of short stories. That's a great one. And then the heavy hitter that I've got for September is Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. This one has consistently come up in people's kind of top 10 lists for science fiction particularly. And I really do like the sound of it. I've got it. It's been on my shelves for ages. I need to get it read, damn it. This is about a guy called Charlie. who was born with an unusually low IQ, but has been chosen as kind of the perfect subject for experimental surgery that researchers hope will increase his intelligence dramatically. A procedure that has already been highly successful when tested on a lab mouse named Algernon. And as the treatment takes effect, Charlie's intelligence expands until it surpasses that of the doctors. The experiment appears to be a scientific breakthrough, with paramount importance, until Algernon suddenly deteriorates. And will the same happen to Charlie? This sounds like it's probably going to be extremely thought-provoking and probably heartbreaking. So yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to reading it, but I'm also a little nervous of it. Okay, into October then. The wonderful woman of science fiction I've picked is Samantha Harvey with Orbital, the book that won this year's Booker Prize. This is described as nature writing from space, sold, and an unexpected and profound love letter to life on Earth. This one sounds right up my street, I have to say. Really happy to see that this won the Booker Prize. I'm very interested to dive into it later next year. And then the heavy hitter that I've got is Existence by David Brin. This sounds like quite a high concept science fiction novel. I'll read you the blurb in case you don't know this one. Gerald Livingston is an orbital garbage collector. For hundreds of years, people have been abandoning things in space, and someone has to clean it up. But there's something spinning a little higher than he expects, something that isn't on the decades-old orbital maps. An hour after he grabs it and brings it in, rumours fill Earth's infomesh about an alien artefact. Thrown into the maelstrom of worldwide shared experience, the artefact is a game changer, a message in a bottle, an alien capsule that wants to communicate. The world reacts as humans always do, with fear and hope and selfishness and love and violence, and insatiable curiosity. That's all I know about that one, but it definitely intrigues me. Okay, into November then, we've got Native Tongue by Suzette Hayden Elgin, my wonderful woman of sci-fi. This one was written in 1984, and everywhere I look, it's compared to kind of Margaret Atwood's *Handmaid's Tale* and some of her kind of more kind of futurist fiction. Set in the 22nd century, and tells of a world where women are once again property, denied civil rights, banned from public life. So this one might be a little close to the bone when I get round to this. I imagine this one's going to be quite a difficult read. And this follows a woman who is the most talented linguist in a kind of a family, a clan of linguists who have become the ruling elite, essentially, because they control all interplanetary communication. Women are used to breed perfect translators for the galaxy's languages. We follow the most talented linguist of this family, who is exhausted by all of her work. She just longs to retire to the Barren House, where women past childbearing age knit, chat, wait to die. But what she comes to discover is that a slow revolution is happening in the Barren House, where word by word women are creating a language of their own to free themselves from men's control. I think this sounds absolutely fascinating, and I'd never heard of this until recently, till this year really, and immediately it went on my list. I think this sounds great. That's absolutely gone on this project list. And then the heavy hitter for this month is Red Mars by Kim Stanley Robinson. For eons, sandstorms have swept the desolate landscape. For centuries, Mars has beckoned humans to conquer its hostile climate. Now, in 2026, a group of 100 colonists is about to fulfill that destiny. For some, Mars will become a passion driving them to daring acts of courage and madness. For others, it follows an opportunity to strip the planet of its riches. For the genetic alchemists, it presents a chance to create a biomedical miracle, a breakthrough that could change all we know about life and death. The colonists orbit giant satellite mirrors to reflect light to the surface. Black dust sprinkled on the polar ice caps will capture warmth. Massive tunnels, kilometres deep, will be drilled into the mantle to create stupendous vents of hot gases. Against this backdrop of epic upheaval, rivalries, loves, and friendships will form and fall to pieces. For there are those who will fight to the death to prevent Mars from ever being changed. So that sounds quite epic to me. I'm looking forward to that. Okay, December then, last two books. The first one, The Wonderful Woman of Science Fiction, for this month is Anne Leckie with Ancillary Justice, quite a contemporary one. And the blurb for this one is, on a remote icy planet, the soldier known as Breck is drawing closer to completing her quest. Once, she was the Justice of Torin, a colossal starship with an artificial intelligence linking thousands of soldiers in the service of the Ratch, the empire that conquered the galaxy. Now, an act of treachery has ripped it all away, leaving her with one fragile human body, unanswered questions, and a burning desire for vengeance. This is the first in a series by Anne Leckie. And this is one that I've left for quite a while because I'm a little... I didn't want to go into this without having some experience in science fiction. I think this one could be quite challenging in terms of some of the ideas, the philosophy, etc. in it, some of the hard science in it, potentially. But I really like the sound of it. So yeah, if I leave it till December, I should be ready to dive into that kind of thing. And in a similar manner, the heavy hitter that I've left until the end of the year is Snow Crash by Neil Stevenson. Because this one is, I really like the sound of this, but this again scares me a little bit. It's, I think, cyberpunky. It's kind of metaverse stuff, which I do find quite discombobulating. But in the blurb it does say, Snow Crash is a mind-altering romp through a future America so bizarre, so outrageous, you'll recognise it immediately. And that's kind of sold me, really, on that one. I know Troy really, really likes this one. But as I say, it's one that I've saved for the end of the year, so that by the time I get there, hopefully my little brain should be ready for it. So that's the lineup for 2025 for science fiction for the somewhat less hesitant. I do, of course, have a ton of other stuff that I couldn't fit on that list that will probably go into 2026. Whether I'm booktubing or not, I'm just so into my science fiction at the moment. I want to kind of structure my reading in it to make sure I kind of get through it, kind of in a manageable way. I find structuring projects like this makes it a bit more manageable for me to jump into stuff. So into 2026, I'll be diving into yet more classic stuff, things that I haven't got to yet. And I want, hopefully by 2026, to feel ready to tackle some of the really tough stuff. Things like Delaney's Dahlgren, which I know is quite tough. Things like Peter Watt's Blind Sight, which I originally thought of putting on the Spaces Scary thing, but I don't think I'm ready for it yet. And who knows, by the end of 2026, I might even be ready to try The Shadow of the Torturer, Gene Wolfe. I doubt it, but I might be. Have goals. There's my goal. There's so much stuff that I still want to get to in both classic and contemporary stuff. So I can easily see this project reaching year 3. But let's get through year 2 first, eh? I'll not put the cart before the horse. So that'll do from me today. That is a rundown of the 24 books that I have on my science fiction for the somewhat less hesitant projects for 2025. I'm so excited to get into all of these. As I say, I've absolutely adored doing this project in the last year. And so I'm super excited to have another year on it. And as I say, if you fancy buddy reading any of these, do let me know. I will put a link in the description to my timetable so you can take note of which months and stuff instead of having to search back through the video, etc. So that'll do from me today. That's plenty of rambling for today. Thank you very much for watching, folks. As always, do drop your thoughts in the comments below. Which of these books are you most excited to find out what I think of them? Are there any that you've read and loved, read and not loved? All of that good stuff, do let me know in the comments. I will be back on Friday with a little introduction to another big old project that I've got planned for next year. This time on horror. I need to get back to reading some more horror. I've neglected it because of getting into science fiction this year, and I need to get back into it, and I have a plan for how I do that. So if you're interested in finding more about that, then I do hope you'll tune in for that on Friday. But from me, for now, that's ta-ra.